Hello and welcome back to Gravity Falls. I built this toy box almost a year and a half ago based on a viewer request, mainly to show what kinds of things you could do with the Gravity Falls setting. I never expected that video to become as popular as it was, and since then I've had a lot of requests to do a series of how to build videos for this toy box. So I'm here today with Nick Wild to begin that series. Now, I've already done a playthrough video way back when, and I've moved that video into my Gravity Falls playlist, so if you haven't seen it yet, you should check it out. I'm not going to do another playthrough today. I'm going to jump right into the build exercise, but before I do, I wanted to share a few updates that I've made with you. Even after I air a video for a toy box, I sometimes go back and make changes to it later on, and that's the case with this toy box. So let me show you the changes that I've made, and that way you'll have these changes because I'm going to incorporate them into my build. And this way, if you choose to build this toy box along with me, then you'll have the latest version that I have with all of the fun new activities. So the first thing you can see that I've done is I've replaced the water textured blocks that were here for the lake with two terrain blocks that are styled in the alien planet theme from Toy Story in Space. It looks like water, but it takes up a lot less memory. And that freed up enough memory for me to finish off this area up here on top of the cliffs with some trees. And I think that just looks a lot better. And it also freed up enough memory to do a few other things. So I've added some vehicle weapon generators here for the toy box race. And probably the biggest change, though, is over at the Mystery Shack. I've added a whole carnival fair thing over here. And this is based on the TV episode, The Time Traveler's Pig, where Stan sets up a dunk tank and rigs it to try to scam the townspeople of their money. And so you can come over here. There's a little helpless townsperson over there who's on top of that platform, and you can try to hit these targets and dunk him into the water. And as you can see, it resets itself after a moment, so you can play that thing to your heart's content, and that's kind of fun. And then I've got a climbing tower over here, which will have a randomly generated pack or tool at the top of the flagpole. So to get up there, there's a trick to jumping on this little mattress, because if you just jump like this and you get up here, there's nowhere to get up there from here. And so it requires a double jump that has to be specifically timed. Oops, I missed it that time. Right at the top of the jump. One more attempt. There we go. And that lets you get up to the top. And then you can climb the pole and get the randomly generated pack or tool at the top. And I think I picked it up. Did I miss it? I hope I didn't miss it. Oh, there's a different one up there now. Interesting. Usually it equips those automatically for you. But let's just see. Packs, tools. Well, select. Not sure if that's what was there, but anyway, I've got a packer tool now. The other thing that I added was this Ferris Wheel, and this actually came from one of the Disney Infinity Toy Box TV episodes where they had built kind of a carnival with a Gravity Falls theme, and I saw that and kind of wanted to do that for myself and see how they did it. And so I added this into my toy box. You kind of get a good aerial view of this part of the toy box by riding this. This was something that Stan had in his fair, so I wanted to make sure I included that. So those are the changes that I've made to my Gravity Falls toy box. And again, all of the other activities and things you saw in the original playthrough video are still here. So now that you've seen the changes that I've made, let's go ahead and start building this toy box. Alright, we're going to begin with an empty toy box, and my goal today is to block in the terrain and add the roads, which will provide the basic framework for the toy box. And the first thing I want to do is put down the boom box, because I'm going to have to turn off the music here once I drop the power disc down. Okay, so with that in place, I'm going to go ahead and put the power disc for the Gravity Falls Sky on my base. And that adds the sky. And now we need to turn off this music. Properties. And there we go. And we'll override the other music. Okay, and then I'm going to move this down below the terrain out of the way. And here we are. Alright, now before we start building, I need to show you my plan for this toy box. One of the problems that I had when I designed it is that I couldn't find any episodes that showed how all the places in Gravity Falls were located with respect to each other. The only zoomed out shot of the valley that I could find was this shot from one episode, but you're zoomed out so far and you can't identify any of the buildings. So I went online and I found this high-definition map from the 3DS game. That was better, but I wasn't sure how official it really was, and it doesn't show everything. I don't see the Dusk to Dawn store, or Greasy's Diner, or the Tent of Telepathy. We have those building pieces in Disney Infinity, but I couldn't see where they should go. So I kept looking, and I finally found this map, which I believe is from Dipper and Mabel's Guide to whatever book. This one does show where those buildings go, and this is the layout that I decided to use for my toy box, with some exceptions. I don't have enough memory to build this entire town, so I moved the Dusk to Dawn store over to the corner near Greasy's Diner, and I made that whole area near Location 5 Wilderness. I also didn't like where the Tent of Telepathy sits over at number 2, because that's not what we see in the show's intro. When the bus drops off Dipper and Mabel, there's nothing but woods behind them. There's no used car lot there, so I moved the Tent of Telepathy and put it where the water tower is, right under the number 5. But all of the other locations in my toy box follow this map. The Mystery Shack, the Gnome Forest, the cemetery, Greasy's Diner, the town square, the lake, and all the rest. So now that we know where everything is, in relation to the cliffs and the train bridge and the Sky Dome, we can begin to lay out the toy box. So let me come into Spark mode, and let's take a look at what we've got. So that bridge and those cliffs are over in that direction, and we were facing over this way. And you can see the water tower is part of the Sky Dome, so I don't have a building piece for that. And so that doesn't really factor into this build at all anyway. But since the cliffs are over here, that kind of determines where we need to start building. So we already have one piece of terrain down, and we're going to need the Gravity Falls terrain texture. So let me come out of the editor, and I'm going to put that disc on the base. And we'll go ahead and switch the world to that theme, not that it matters. There we go. Because it doesn't actually set the theme anyway. So to do that, we got to come into the styling menu and go ahead and style it so that it will do that. So there's the Gravity Falls Forest, and I'll set that to be my theme. Alright, so now that we've done that, we can start putting down additional terrain blocks. And I'm going to come up to the terrain drawer, and we need to scroll over to the right, and we're looking for the largest piece, which matches the one that we've already got. And so it looks like the orientation of it goes this way. So let's go ahead and put this in, and I'm going to put it right next to that one, facing those cliffs just like that. We want to make sure it's lined up the same way. Okay? So there's 2 wide, and then we're going to go 4 in this direction. So 1, 2, 3, for a total of 4. And then we'll scoot over to the side and fill this in. Oops. So we've got a 4 by 2 section of blocks in here. All right. And then, let's see, the next piece we're going to put in, we're going to go to the next size smaller. And let's come back over here to this back corner. As we're facing the bridge in that way, we're coming to this back corner, and I'm going to drop this piece down off the back corner just like that. And I'm going to put 2 of them in here, like that. And then we're going to go to the next size smaller. And we're going to put 2 on the end like this. And then we're going to come over here and put down 3 like this. And you'll see what I'm doing in just a moment. But basically I'm putting in space for the area back here that's going to go around the river and the lake. That's on the left side of the map that we looked at earlier. Okay, so now that we have that, let's go ahead and put in the water. And so we got to scroll over to the left a little ways. And yeah, I could have set up a list of favorites ahead of time with just the pieces that I need. But I know some of you need to see where these things are to begin with. So that's why I do it this way. And it takes a little extra time, I know, but some of you being newer builders need to know where to find these things, and that's what I want to show you. All right, so this piece is going to sit in here, and I want to rotate it like this, and we're going to drop it down 1 block, like that. So there is the lake, and then we're going to come in and fill in the river pieces. We're going to line these up along here like this, with this corner tucked in there. And then we're just going to make a long row of these. This is the river that runs under the little bridge that leads up to the Mystery Shack. Let's see how far. Okay, so we're at the last block now. We're only going to go 2 more, like that. And then we need a waterfall on the end, because we can't just have that ending with nothing. So we'll go ahead and put that one in. I just kind of like the look of that. Alright, so now that we have that, let's come over and pick up our original block and put it down, and that gets us back to that part of the drawer. And now we're going to fill in this corner over here. And as you can see, this lines up perfectly in that little cubby hole. We're going to put 2 of these in, followed by a couple of next size smaller blocks. All right, and this is where the Mystery Shack is going to sit over here. All right, let's go back now to the large block, and we're going to come over here to this side and put in the lake on the other end. And so this is on the block here, second from the back, as we're facing in that direction. So I'm spinning the camera around so you can see the orientation. And once again, I'm going to drop this 1 block down. And then let's go ahead and set the style for this to use the Toy Story in Space theme. And you have to have the playset in order to use this. And I'll set that to be my theme. There it goes. Okay. And then we're going to put in 1 more block right over here off the end of that, like that. And I'm going to try and line it up. That looks pretty good. Like that's lined up with the swirls on the other one. I guess either way, it looks pretty good. We'll do it that way. And that'll hide the seam a little bit if the swirls kind of line up with the block next to it. Alright, so there is our water. And now I'm going to pull up my screenshot here, and we're going to fit in some additional blocks around this. So let's go ahead and come back into Spark mode, and I'm going to come over to this block, and I'm going to restyle it just so I can set my theme again to be the Gravity Falls Forest. Set that to be the theme, cancel out. And while that's updating, come back into the editor. And we're going to look for this block here, which I always thought was funny. It's called a small terrain block, but it's not very small. Alright, I'm going to try to line this texture up a little bit with what we see on the other, so it's not so obvious that it's a different block. Alright, so we're going to put 2 of those down like that, and then we're going to put another 2 down, and I'm going to go up 2 blocks like this. Okay? And the same with this, like that. And then we're going to come over to the right to the slopes. And we're going to use this slope to make a slope going up that level. So that's what we have currently. And then I'm going to keep going to the right. And there's a specific ramp piece that I'm looking for. You got to go quite a ways to get to it. But let's see. Should be here. There it is. The ramp cliff. And I'm going to put this up here and put it right on the back corner of that block, just like that. And then we'll go to the block underneath and pick that up, put it down and go to the next size larger. And this is going to sit in here like this, up against the water, and up at the height of that other block that I just put in. So you can see we're kind of building a path to get up on top of the cliffs. Okay. So now we've got that piece in. We'll put a row of these across the back. Like that. And then the next size smaller, we'll put some of these right in here like this. And don't worry that there's a gap down here that you can kind of see, where you can see a little bit of sky, because we're going to cover that up in a moment with some cliff pieces. Okay, so now that we have that, let's go back to the next size larger. And we're going to put this down right over here, lined up, if I can get it there. And we're going to set this down. And let's go ahead and put it over here on this end. And once again, I want to line up that texture a little bit. And then we'll put 2 blocks in here, like that. And that blocks that in pretty good, I think. We're going to put 1 more of these over here, like this. And actually, that texture's kind of backwards. Let's flip this around 180 degrees, like that. Alright, so there is the basic structure for the terrain for our toy box. And now we can start adding in some details. And let's go ahead and come over to this ramp piece that we put in earlier. I'm going to pick that up and put it down. And that gets us back to this part of the drawer. And I'm going to put down this little piece right here lined up with the edge of that, and you'll see why I need that in a moment. But since we're right here in this part of the drawer, I want to make sure I grab that. And then I come back to my screenshot here. Okay. Then we're going to come back over to the left. And this banked curve, we're going to put one of these down over here. And what we're going to do is try to make this not look so square for the lake. We're going to soften the edges and try to make this look a little bit more rounded, which I think will be really helpful. Because right now it looks really blocky. And let's go ahead and come back and pick this piece up because there's a couple other smaller pieces I want to add in. There's a little peninsula that sticks out here. I want to line it up with the edge of this block over here. And we're going to put down 2 of those like that. And trying to find my shot here. Sorry about that. Okay. We'll grab this one and put this in up here. Like that. Had to make sure I got that right. And then we'll come back over and pick this up and put it down, and that gets us back once again to this part of the drawer. And so now we can put in this little piece here, and let me spin the camera around so this is a little easier to see. We can kind of fit some curves around this so it doesn't look so blocky. And maybe throw this on the front here, just to kind of soften that a little bit. Do the same on this side. And as you can see, we're just softening the edges of this. Put this in the middle. Then it doesn't look quite so square. That just looks a lot nicer all the way around. So I like that. And let's cover up this ugly little seam over here by putting that on there. So that doesn't look quite so bad. And then I think that's everything I want to do with that. Now, there's a little island in the middle of the lake. And so what we're going to do for this is I'm going to line it up with this terrain seam over here. Okay? And this will go right down the middle. Since we're on that side, we'll flip this around. And we're going to come out over this way, and I'm going to line it up a little bit past the edge of that cliff over there. And again, you don't have to get this perfect, but this is about where you want to place this little island. And you don't want to use necessarily those same blocks. Make it a little bit more interesting. You can do that. Okay. So that looks pretty good. And then for the cliffs, let's pick this up once again. Put it down. And we'll go over to the right. Past the water, past these caves, past these canyon pieces, to these cliff pieces. And we'll start with this cliff corner. Put this right back here like that. And while we're on this piece, let's go ahead and put another one on this corner, like so. And then we can put in some cliff walls along here. And this covers up that seam down there and just makes this a little bit more visually interesting, which really helps. And you want to break it up and not have it be quite so repetitive. So you can stick that little climbing piece in there. That gives the player another opportunity to get up there, another way to get up to the top of the cliffs. And then for this corner, you've got this kind of square edge over here. And so we'll use this narrow piece to fit in there. And then so you don't have a square edge on this side, that's why we've got this little piece up there like that. So that looks pretty good. Now, when you're standing on the edge of the toy box here, you kind of see this ugliness over here. And so we want to go ahead and cover that up. So let me grab my screenshot for that. I've taken pictures of all of the things that I've built here. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and we're going to have a gap under here if we don't put another block down, so that's what I'm going to do right there. And then we're going to come pick this piece up and put it back down, which gets us back to this part of the drawer. And we're just going to drop down a cliff here that will kind of cover this up. And you can put this here, you can drop it down, but I'm going to put it up here just so we can not end up with a seam over here. So when you're standing up here, that just looks a little bit better. Alright, and then let's go ahead and fit some nice edges around the toy box here. So let's pick that up again and put it down, which gets us near to these cliff pieces. So we're going to put that one in like this. We'll put another one in over here, like so. We can put some of these down. That kind of softens the edge of this considerably. Put a small one in over here, and then we'll put the large one in off the end like this. And again, I think that just looks a lot better. It adds a nice finishing touch. And I'm just going to run a row of these down the edge of the toy box over here, like that. And on this side, you can leave that blank, or you could maybe put one of these in here if you really wanted to. I'm not going to do it. I'll just leave that open. All right, so there is the majority of the terrain for this toy box. And let's go ahead now and put in the racetrack and put in the roads, because that won't take very long. It's not very large. So as a spacer, we're going to use this block here, and I'm going to come back to this end of the toy box, and we are going to line it up with this seam back here. Alright, so we're going to put one down, two down. Okay, just double checking the placement of that. And then we'll come up to the racetrack pieces, and I'm looking for the long piece, which is this one. And we're going to line this up with the edge of the terrain there on the left and the edge of that block. So that's where the road is going to go. And let's go ahead and set the theme for this. And I'm going to use the toy box roads. I'll set that to be my theme. Alright, and then a very long racetrack, followed by a racetrack left, followed by a medium, and then the start piece. So we're going to start actually down a little closer to town. And then we're looking for the racetrack piece, like this, and then our first turn. And those of you who've been watching my Toy Box Racing series, and some of the really cool things I've been doing in there, this racetrack will be a little disappointing to you, because I'm not doing anything really fancy here. The point of this toy box isn't racing, but since I have to have roads anyway to build the toy box, I always like to try to make a racetrack out of it, because that adds another activity, another thing you can do when you're in the toy box. So I didn't have a lot of memory left to be able to do many cool things with this, but I wanted to make sure I did something. Now this isn't going to be part of the race, but we're going to stick this road in here on the end like that. This is the road that leads to the town square, and we'll put the racetrack intersection here in the middle. Okay. And then we'll pick this one up and put it back to get us back over here. And we'll put down a racetrack piece, which gets us to the edge of that terrain block. And then we're going to do a racetrack right on the end of that. Followed by some turns. And these will be the curves that go through the canyon. And if we've done this right, that should line up like that. So there's our roads. And now we can take these little spacer blocks out. And we're done. Alright, so that is the basic course, and we are now over the half-hour mark, so I didn't have a chance to put the terrain in for the canyon here, but we'll do that next time. And then we'll start working on the Mystery Shack. Until then, I want to thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed my video today, or at least found it helpful for you to start building Gravity Falls in your own toy box. Before you leave, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already done that, so you don't miss the next episode, and leave a comment to let me know what you think of the changes that I've made to this toy box. Have a great day.